How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I'm your host, Xander, and today we were supposed to be giving the fans what they want with the questions and comments and responses that we normally set up for you guys every week. This week has been busier than most, I can say the least. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Make sure that you join the membership. If you're coming in on TikTok side, you can join. You can subscribe using the link on the bottom right side here. And then also, if you join the membership, which is different from the subscription, subscribing to either our YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter. I think we have an Instagram platform. Not too sure. I'm trying to fill in. There's like 7 or 8 different social media platforms. We would be able to give you guys notice of our lineup throughout the week. And especially if you're on YouTube, we have a lineup going out towards the beginning of October. So you're going to start seeing our Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays fill up a lot more. So I want to make sure that you guys are prepared for that. We're doing a lot of dynamic changes coming soon. So the shows are about to get a lot more interesting. We're going to start talking about a lot more random topics, current events, other such open forum discussions, some hypotheticals, probably even go into a few philosophical concepts, just really broadening up the platform's engagement, in addition to our discussions with relationships and self-empowerment, as well as how to build a man up. So guys, you coming through, you're trying to figure out how you're going to build your bag up. We're going to be talking about a lot of those coming up soon. And we're going to be giving you guys financial insight on some things. So like if you're trying to build yourself a C corporation, you know how Project 2025 is about to flip the script for most of us. You also know that it's designed for big business. So if you set up and build yourself a big business, then regardless of what kind of country we end up in, if you start preparing yourself for those fallouts, you're able to produce in those fallouts. I just noticed something over here in the TikTok side. Y'all can't see us over on the YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter side. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. And there's the rest of the group. All right. So now everybody's here. We do a lot of relationship topics. We talk about a lot of inequalities that negatively impact men. And I know a lot of women don't like hearing that, but I mean, that's kind of what we do. We kind of try to bring some insight to, kind of show you a lot of us know where the imbalance is coming from. And those of us that understand where the imbalance is coming from recognize where the imbalance needs to change. In modern society, where men are trying to bring a little bit more balance into everyone's worlds, we are not as one-sided in our judgment making decisions as we used to be 100 plus years ago. But the freedom of liberation has allowed the scales to tip so far in the opposite direction that on this podcast we talk about some of the things that don't make sense about the way things that have changed, but we definitely talk about a lot of other things, because as men we have those expectations that we have to adhere to, and since we have to adhere to those expectations for social acceptance, because in the Western United States, or Western culture of the United States, we have that understandably unremovable expectation as men to be able to perform a certain type of masculine characteristics, and if we don't fulfill those characteristics the way people would expect us to, then they start really chipping away at our masculinity. So, or at least challenging it, to say the least. So we try to, on this podcast, give guys some insight as to what they could do to improve or fix or shift their ability to make better business, and then improve their self-worth, improve their wealth, improve their get their money up. And even if it doesn't aid you in anything other than improving yourself and improving your financial situation, we kind of try to help you with that. But by improving yourself and improving your financial situation, you're also capable, as men, of qualifying for a better quality of woman that will actually treat you with a lot more respect, because men are primarily after companionship. And since that is the case, that men are after companionship, we as men understand what it takes to be qualified as a companion, and we tell each other what to do. This is what you do to, get your meet your expectations, get your goals accomplished. We don't see that with the women, or at least we don't see that in the same fashion with the women, because the women do tell the younger women and the younger generations how to do it on their own and get their own bag and not depend on a man for nothing. But the women fail to understand that you have to be a partner. You can't be a dictator. You can't be overly dominant on men, and that's supposed to be considered cute all the time. I mean, we can see a lot of things in our modern society that hasn't gone the way we would have expected it to go. And yeah, we are still trying to fix that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that going down that path of being overruled by our girlfriends or our wives, that's going to make reasonable successful relationships. And statistics have shown that the chaos in relationships, the power dynamic that turns into a power struggle, that leads to the shortness of relationships outside of the selfishness and the one-sidedness that happens in relationships, regardless of which gender that performs it. The fact of the matter is that the length of relationships haven't lasted as long as it used to. So we thought that it'd be a good idea to have these types of open forum discussions and kind of bring a few people in on these discussions, so that we can kind of work on covering the bases and walking through some of the grounds and the issues that the day-to-day operations do not tend to address. So this past week, with a lot of shifts in the show, with a lot of changes in the dynamics of the show, we've had some I've definitely been dealing with some burnout mode. So I've been having a difficulty with trying to maintain the productivity that I was trying to produce on the platform. So I've been making a few gear shifts this past week. So, as a result, in shifting gears and having to deal with burnout mode, I've had to deal with some late podcasts being released. I've had to deal with ending some podcasts a little bit short. Like tonight's podcast is not going to be extremely long. We've had to get some concepts readdressed. So, and that's one of the biggest things that I wanted to do for the fans. So I figure that, if I take an L, I'm not going to not show up for the show. But if I take an L and do a shorter show so that we can produce you guys some better stuff for next month, that'll be even better. So coming up for September, we're supposed to be talking about, like I said before, some financial tips and some business insights. And I want to be able to take the time to get that research in. So want to kind of focus on bringing in improved quality of viewership. So as a result of doing that, I kind of wanted to then turn around and say, well, after we bring that in, I wanted to give you guys even better quality stuff going forward. So the next phase was to dive in and then say, well, let me do more research on some good topics for you guys for upcoming months. And that followed me into some of the topics that we have, like the extreme punishment rules that are happening in Louisiana, and some other financial topics that I've been looking up, in addition to a few other concepts in relationships that I haven't had the opportunity to dig deeper into. And I kind of want to dig deeper into the relationship dynamics, because when you turn the social inequality and the gender inequality and the imbalance in gender engagements, we're able to, from a philosophical level, start really digging down deep into what doesn't make sense about the fact that the expectations are primarily one-sided. And it's not even one-sided in some situations where it's reversed, on the other situations where there is a little bit of balance, it's just extremely one-sided. The ends do not justify the means, and when one group is extremely non-beneficial of the scenario, we consider that a biased scenario. We consider that an unfavorable scenario, and we do not tend to advocate for the underdog to remain an underdog. We typically expect the underdog to achieve or overachieve, to pull himself out of being an underdog. But we typically root for the underdog as the underdog crawls his or her way out of that dark cavern of despair. So with that being said, I just feel like, yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of pretty nifty things coming up. And I wanted to cover a lot of different bases that I have not covered in past podcasts. So since we're trying to broaden our horizons and trying to get our constructs out here, what are we planning on doing for our upcoming shows? We're definitely going out there left field. Well, I'm going out there left field. So the comments and questions from the fans are going to start getting more extreme for our Sunday nights. After we cross over our financial investments and starting up C corporations, we're going to be going into some other dynamics that will help you guys in the business and finance realm. We're going to be dealing with some do-it-yourself, some how-tos, how to get something, acquire something, kind of the same thing, how to maintain something. We're going to be getting into, I've noticed that they've been unearthing some pretty awesome vehicles as of late, and they're actually making newer models of that same vehicle. So, that's going to be something that's pretty enthusiastic for me to take a look at. So I feel like we're going to probably be talking about some interesting things about some cars that's been coming out lately, and really trying to hit on a lot of different dynamics that people have not been ready to talk about, or willing to talk about, or even really considered in some scenarios. So when we talked about our we had the Android topic, and when we talked about the Android topic, we mentioned a lot of technology that was advancements that people have not really paid attention to, and then we started seeing it going into effect. And then we had another topic that followed that about technology and how things were getting a little bit more complex. And with that complexity with the technology, I started speculating on the possibility of other things that could be happening. And we also, in that same show, we talked about how the Cybertruck was promising a lot of features that it doesn't currently have. And even though it is being sold at about $50,000 more than what it was originally estimated in 2019 to 2021, people are still overpaying for it and not getting as much as what was offered. Some of the rest of us that are still on the list that haven't actually caved on that venture and bought a different car, or decided to remove themselves off of the list and get their reservation feedback. Those people are waiting on the rest of the features to happen on the truck. I don't blame them. You want to put that quad motor in there. You want to get the crab turn feature in there. You want to get the solar panels on the Volt on there. You want to get the full service AI system on there. You want everything that you said that you were going to give us, you know? Because otherwise, I mean, because all that stuff is supposed to come in on the base package and it's not there. So otherwise, it's not worth it to get. So, you know, then it was just the bad investment with no refund. I mean, you get a refund, but there was bad investment with no return, where you didn't make money off of this particular investment. So there are some other ways that we can dive into some advancements of technology. It's never good to get the first edition. It's always good to get the one that happens after all of the recalls and all of the mistakes, so that you get the best possible quality of that particular item that you can get. So those of us that are still on reservation are waiting for the rest of the product to come out, waiting for the better quality version of it to come out. So might not have a founder's edition, because I mean, you're not trying to buy the one that is work in progress. We're looking for the finished product. See what I'm saying? And a lot like in the dating game, when men are waiting, when anyone is waiting on the finished product, you have to qualify for the finished product after the finished product is to your satisfaction. So that's another dynamic that I talk about on the show that a lot of ladies don't really accept or understand. You want men to be the finished product financially with their resources and whatnot, but you don't believe that you have to qualify for the man after he makes that bag. And truth is that that's not the case. There is no dynamic where only one side needs to be satisfied outside of a monarchy, where only one side needs to be satisfied and everyone else just has to deal with it. So outside of a monarchy, you are not going to see that type of behavior. So in social interaction, where the false advertisement of equality is being promoted by the favored party, when the unfavored party is able to point out and recognize the lack of equality in the scenario, the excuse that comes out is, well, back in the day, 100 years ago, inequality was in the reverse fashion. Yeah, that doesn't justify your behavior today. Social inequality wasn't all that good today, a few hundred years ago. The dynamic, even though the dynamic has shifted, it hasn't shifted enough for those that used to be at the bottom to deserve to be at the top, stomping on and spitting on and beating on the people that was doing it to them hundreds of years ago. So two wrongs don't make a right. Now, like I said, we're going to be dealing with one of those brief shows today, because it's going to be super brief in comparison to before. I think I'm probably going to give you guys another 20 minutes, because I really want to dive into some of the other things that we have to start making the podcast a lot better for you guys going forward. and we're going to be trying to pull in. I'm actually looking into getting some guest stars coming up onto the show. We've got it set up where the fans can dive in. So whenever the fans do show up, we really appreciate you guys for coming. And some of the fans, as long as we can prove that you're over the age of 18, we're looking at, we do have some bombers that tend to dive in. And as a result, we get them to verify themselves through the links and then identify them so that we can make sure that they're over the age of 18, and then they can get onto the show. You can do a shout out to your homies. You can come into the show and provide more insight to the concepts. If we are kind of trailing on that particular topic, then we could always segue into another topic when you jump in. Questions and answers, stuff that affect. And as long as we're dealing with a open forum, open discussion with open-minded people, we're able to have it where, like, even if you disagree with one another, we're not dealing with direct hate speech. I mean, you don't have to agree with the other person without having to attack them verbally or attack their character. You know, it's like if you don't agree with them, you don't agree with them. And if you have reasons why you don't agree with them, then that makes sense. But just really going after the person because you don't agree with them is not something that we actually do on this particular podcast. So it is one of those things that it's a growing podcast. We're about 12,500 right now. I have it marked off at 12,000, but we've grown since yesterday. So we've had a few extra fans come in overnight. We're around the world actually right now, so we're starting to get a lot more responses from our fans, and as a result, we encourage you guys to really want to boost the podcast up. We really want to get it to a higher level, and as a result of trying to get it to a higher level, we've set some goals. So over there on TikTok, we're trying to get to 100,000 subs, and that requires us to get a lot of likes, a lot of follows. We have a small goal that's not up there right now because I think we can only post one goal at a time, but we have a small goal that's up there where we're trying to get over 500 likes on the show. We haven't gotten that this week, but we were trying to get it. We have a few people that come in and give us a few likes, so we really appreciate you guys. But for you over on Twitch side, actually, we've been working on trying to get another 100 extra fans on the podcast. So we're trying to do that. We're trying to cross over some milestones over there, but over on YouTube, we just want you guys to send us some super likes, super emojis, and give us some gifts and donations. Special thanks for the podcast and the content that we are trying to provide to you throughout the week, since we are live 7 days a week. And we definitely have a wide variety of things that we're going to be talking about coming soon. Probably going to adjust the calendar by a whole lot. We're going to be doing some adjustments on the calendar so you guys can see some of the things that we're going to be putting up. We really appreciate you for those likes. And since we're making a few dozen adjustments on the calendar coming up soon, and we're going to be touching base on a more broader spectrum of concepts and ideas, more people will be able to be entertained by and educated and informed by some of the things that's going to be coming up on the new direction of the podcast. So beyond that, we also, it's always good if you've joined the membership for you guys to come and even if you haven't joined a membership, but if you join a membership, it's always good to come and go to the channel's community platform, because when you go to the channel's community platform, you're able to see some of the things that we have coming up soon, but you're able to have conversations and drop your content or comments in the community channel. If you want to see us do a specific show and it's an appropriate show, then we can look over some of your recommendations or requests and then we're able to put those shows together and help you guys with the questions and answers that you need for the live podcast. And again, if you're over the age of 18, you could probably even join us on that show when you do see that show air. Typically, what we have you do is we have you click the link and click the mic. Once you approve the mic and approve the camera, you're able to be in our green room. And then we just got to confirm that you are an adult and then bring you up onto the podcast. So as you can see, I'm extremely tired. I've been burning a candle at both ends all week. And it has been one of the most challenging things because this isn't the only thing that I do outside of the podcast. You know, I still have family that I have to tend to. And I also have another occupation because this is a small podcast. So while we're starting up with this podcast, we are working on trying to build it up and get it a lot better. I'm still working on other jobs to help pay for the platform. So, and then I got to take care of the bills around the way. So, you know, while we did get a bit monetized on YouTube, we're still working on monetization on some of the other platforms. So we're still working on what do we do and where do we do it at? That's some of the things that we're trying to work out. And it's a big challenge. So I got to give it after doing it for a while, because I've been doing this for about 10 months, going on 11 months now. After doing it for a while, I've got to give those longstanding podcasters, those influencers, those people, well, the guys that are sitting there actually doing a talk show style, I got to give those guys some props. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of behind the scenes script work. It takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of video editing. There's a lot going on behind the scenes of a podcast. It's not just somebody sitting in a nifty chair talking into the camera. It is a lot of stuff going on to make these things really successful and to work on viewership. So I know that we have some collaboration things going on with some of the other podcasts that I would actually like to do on a regular basis, is link up with some of the other people who do podcasts and try to get something going where we could all do something in an appropriate fashion. So I'm going to be linking up with some adults because, you know, our podcasts are grown folks because we're going to be fussing and cussing and all that stuff. So we got to, 18 and older, but we'd be linking up with other content creators coming up soon and potentially having co-hosted podcasts and coordinating with other people to try to see if we can get stuff done. So, there's going to be a lot of changes in our podcast that has not been there before. And I tell you guys about it before we start doing it, because when we start doing it, those of you that were there before it happened, that are still there after it happens, you start seeing a difference. And you're like, wow, you guys really came about. It's like, yeah, I know. It's one of those come out of the mud kind of things. It's one of those grind for success kind of things. And I just encourage people, anybody who's striving to be successful, who's grinding and trying to make things work, I strongly encourage you to get out there and get it the way it needs to be gotten, so that you can never look back and wonder what if. You can never look back and regret the things that you've attempted, because even if you try and you fail, if you give it everything you've got, you are never going to be in a situation where you regret where you ended up because you did not do your best. And that's one of the things that I was taught when I was a kid, was to always do your best, always do better than your best. Even if you thought that was the best that you could do, if you could just try a little bit harder, that dynamic change would greatly improve your ability to be successful going forward. And that means that you might put in a certain work ethic, you might put in a certain level of work, and then you try a little bit harder. Then when you hit that wall and you realize, man, I can't keep this pace up, that's when you're able to find balance at that pace. That's when you're able to say, well, I'm going to do a little less, but I'm going to do a little less of it more often, and try to stretch it out. Try to find a way to maintain a certain work ethic, a certain work level. And then once you do that, then you are able to maneuver yourself into a better situation where you're able to tackle the issues that are not able to be tackled on a regular basis. And then you're able to cover more of your work ethic. So with being a podcaster, you can do a little and it could go a long way, and you could do a lot and it can not go as far. And you have to gauge your productivity versus your results, and you're got to be able to determine when you're doing too much and roll it back to make sure that the stuff that you're doing is going further than the effort that you're putting into it, because that's one of the ways that you're able to draw it back and make it more successful. So I personally see myself in these positions where, yeah, we haven't actually put up the link today. I was gonna put the link up, but then I was like, Today was gonna be laid back. I was supposed to bring up some Q&As. I found some questions. I didn't get a chance to convert them into audio files. I didn't want to waste you guys' time today with waiting on us to come to the show. So I said, I'm gonna hold those questions for next week, and I'm gonna be, like I said, doing a redirect for the behind the scenes stuff, and because we're redirecting the behind the scenes stuff and trying to build things up for better results, I'm gonna be focusing on a way to make sure that I have a little bit more time to get you guys more juicier stories, more juicier concepts, more improved discussions. And that way we can have a lot better of a Sunday night show where we're able to bounce back and forth and talk to the fans about the stuff that the fans want to hear, as well as things that can help the fans improve and grow. So instead of putting the together the show today half-assed, one of the things I hate, I've always told my co-hosts that, it is never good to put your worst foot out there and say that is your best, because that trolling people to believe that you're doing the best that you can when you could be doing better, that's never a thing for me. I like giving my best and doing my best 100% of the time, and that's a result I don't like deliberately half-assing. Now sometimes you got to take shortcuts because you just can't. The situation you're in, you don't have enough resources to succeed, and your goal is to succeed, so you might cut corners in order to get to that success. While that is not the way to go on a regular basis, whatever you got to do to get to where you need to go, in the rare occurrence that you have to improvise like that, those are the situations where you are clearly pushing yourself as far as you could possibly push yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I suggest, regrouping and trying to make sure that all the tools and resources that you need are properly in place, where it is not just, coming out of nowhere with like being blindsided with certain tasks. So since I couldn't piece it together the way I wanted to piece it together, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to talk to you guys for a brief while. So I'll be wrapping things up pretty shortly, and make sure that you guys know that we appreciate y'all for coming, and let you guys know that we're going to have us a more spectacular lineup coming up in the upcoming weeks. We're going to be talking to you guys about a lot of different concepts. I may even dive back in onto the politics side, so that we can talk about what else is going on with the current election. Because, I was actually talking to a buddy of mine on, actually, one of my students, actually, because I do, like I said, I got other things to do. And he was telling me about how he didn't really care either way about how the government would turn out, because it doesn't influence him, but he's trying to get citizenship here. I'm like, just because you can't impact the way things are about to go, it doesn't mean that you can't be frustrated about what's about to happen. Like, you can't tell me that. Adapting to life, it is what it is. But, if you signed up for a college that you always wanted to get into, and then you found out once you got there that it was about to change into the type of college that you didn't want to get into, but they already took your money, I mean, it's hard to get your money back, but you got to try to get it done. So we typically try to change up things the way we can make it a lot better. And since that change is happening this week, uh, a complete dynamic shift. I see myself just saying, well, typically on Sunday nights is when I make these massive changes. So I said, well, tonight I'm going to go ahead and make this change and just talk to the fans and make sure that the fans know. For those of you that are loyal and coming back to see us on a regular basis, and then for the rest of us that collaborate together in the future shows that we're going to be having, you guys will be able to see all of the improvements that we're going to be having for the podcast. So that's going to be kind of the other thing, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you guys really briefly. So with that being said, I really wanted you guys to come out to have a fantastic show tonight, and I didn't get a chance to put it together the way I wanted to put it together. So I'm like, I kind of want to hit those 2-hour podcasts where we have a lot of Q&As that I'm able to go over. I want to piece it together in a more effective fashion so that we can have a lot more discussions that haven't been talked about. So trying to piece that stuff together as well. So I'm just thinking, let me just coin a lot of these concepts and just piece them all together, and then really start bringing you guys some just better stuff. And content creators, I gotta say, man, whew, this is a hard gig. Yeah, it pays, but it is a long uphill climb to get it to pay. It is a long and stressful, it's a mentally stressful situation, not a physically stressful situation. And there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you have to do, like working on your branded content, working on contracts for sponsors and everything like that. And it takes more than one person to get the job done. But in order for you to get the job done in a group or with a team, you gotta have the right people on your plate that are motivated, because if they're not, then the workload falls on you. And then when the workload falls on you, then you kind of end up like I am, where you counted on people to come through for you and they fail on a regular basis because they didn't realize that the work was so hard, and then they don't show up, they don't bring their weight, and then that means that you have to carry their weight in order to make sure that the situation is successful. And it just isn't a good look, because you are always left with being the most productive person on the team. And then that puts you in a compromising position, because since the success is not being successful due to the lack of effort, you have to bring up additional success in order to offset the failure of others. So you really start being held back and weighed down. So to improvise on that, what you have to do is you have to shed a lot of baggage. You have to make a lot of changes. And that's one of the things that's going to be happening coming soon. So yeah, that's my little spiel for this afternoon. I'm going to have it. This is probably going to be the shortest show. I think I had a 25-minute show one time. So it has been shorter, but this is going to be one of the shortest shows that you'll see. But usually when we have really short shows like this, you see a massive change, a massive improvement in what we're about to start producing to the fans. And you're going to start seeing a lot more positive content coming up, where you'll be able to see us engaging with people that we have not been able to engage with. So like, we've had a few fans come up onto the show for the live podcast this past week. I've been making shorts out of that, and I encourage you guys to come and take a look. That's going to be one of our biggest features, is giving you guys your 15 minutes of fame, and then carrying it even further. So we're going to be trying to take you guys and putting you into some shorts when you do come to the show. So if you did give yourself a shout out, give your partner or your homie or whatever a shout out, if it's reasonably appropriate, not only will it be broadcasted live on air, we'll make a short about it, a highlight reel about it, and then we'll post that up onto the platform as well, showing our fans even more appreciation than what we was doing back in the day. Since I primarily do all the editing, all of the reasonable editing, you're gonna see me. I got to juggle with commenting with you guys as well as doing the video editing until I can afford to pay some people I can trust to bring the editing to get to the table. I'm going to be looking at a lot of hands-on myself, and that's one of the reasons why we're having this dynamic shift. So with that being said, I kind of want to tap out a little bit early. I want to make sure that you guys like and subscribe, join the membership, give us a quick follow, smash that like button when you're on the podcast, and also we're going to be asking you guys to when you're joining the membership, you're going to get those discount tiers. So we're asking you to join the membership, pick you up some merchandise and some memorabilia from the show. Stay tuned every day of the week because we are live every day of the week, which contributes to my burnout. But as us being live every day of the week, we start at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 5 Pacific. So we typically run an hour to 2 hour long podcast, not today. And as a result, you guys are able to see us on a weekly basis live, join it, or daily basis live, and then join us on those daily concepts that shift and migrate out on a regular basis. And also, in addition to that, because we have so many shows that air, we have a large quantity of highlight reels, long form and short videos that roll out every day. We were doing about 8 or 9 releases a day. I think I'm going to roll it back to about 4 because the workload dynamic has shifted. And since the workload dynamic has shifted, going to start putting in a lot of effort into making sure that a one-man army is going to be able to fight the battle and win the war. So I don't really have much else to give to you guys today. And not to mention burnout mode. So I'm going to go ahead and tap out early. I really appreciate you guys dropping in for the show. And we're going to be giving you guys something a whole lot more than what you guys were getting before. And also, while I'm at it, I'm going to be trying to reach out to some content creators and try to get some concepts and some insight to kind of get a feel of what they think and do on other contents platforms, and try to bring them on and get their what it does onto the podcast. So as I do that behind the scenes research to try to find some podcasters that'll collaborate and stuff, the growing podcast with an experienced podcast, try to get some insight. As that happens, you'll start seeing us with some new faces. So until we get everything ironed over with our core directive, we're probably going to be just bringing up the fans. But once we get our core directive up there, we start getting everything rotated out the way we want to get it rotated out, you'll start seeing us bring in a whole lot more guest stars, which will bring a whole lot more fans. And that's when we'll really start blowing it up a lot faster and a lot better than the way things used to be blown up. So since we're doing that change, I just want to leave you guys with, ladies, I say this on a daily basis. As long as it doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you to make it make sense. So ladies, make it make sense. We're going to go ahead and sign off with TikTok first. We appreciate you guys coming in. For the rest of you guys that follows us on YouTube and Twitch and sometimes Twitter, we had a better turnout today from TikTok, which is weird. I don't get it. For some reason, I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it. I watch. And bro, apparently, we appreciate him for following us for almost 5 minutes on the podcast. That's pretty hard to do on TikTok because everybody's there for a few seconds. So I like to take a look at some of the longer standing people that hang out with us on the podcast, because it kind of helps us with figuring out who to pull back into the platform and make it do what it do. So for you guys on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, we really appreciate your loyalty. Thank you guys for showing up when you can. We really appreciate all of the fans in the United States. We also really appreciate you guys who are following us from the wide ranges across the world. So I kind of want to give you guys a few shout outs before I go sign out. So I really appreciate you guys. The top 5, there's actually like 8 states that are fluctuating back and forth, because North Carolina and Georgia are in and out with Illinois. So we really appreciate you guys for coming to the podcast. And then I want to give, real quick before I sign out, a special thanks to our fans from around the world, because all of our fans, including the ones from Romania that have been showing us love, we really appreciate you guys on a daily basis for coming in and giving us that props. So that's all I have for the rest of you, because I'm actually streaming from 2 different platforms on the same computer, which is usually very difficult to do. And I think one of the reasons why it's difficult to do is because Mr. Pibbs is logging in on the same login that I log in at, and then it's splitting the signal, and that's going to give us a lot of failure with content production. Between that and Wi-Fi tower usage, because we're operating off of a cellular network, which means that when there's a lot more cellular traffic in the area, there's a lot less bandwidth, which will play the tune that we'll have a different shift in bandwidth because everybody's going back to school. So I'll be able to say whoop-de-doo, because podcasts won't be so difficult. Won't have a lot of frame changes and drop communication. So again, like I said before, as I start bringing things out and trying to make things better, I just want to let you guys know that I've got a lot more stuff coming up for you. So I want you guys to stay tuned for it. And again, thank you for coming to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I am your host, Xander.